Hello all, welcome to the Export Fundas. Joining me is Dr. Jagatji. Hey Jagatji, what's up? क्या चल रहा है?
All good. So,
So, yeah,
yes, Nikhil, last time we did uh, the gold visa of US. You
yeah.
want to share something on that?
So, so guys, a follow up on this incredible story. I mean, first day of opening, first day, they raised $5 billion. And what Jagatji is telling me is actually they were going to get 10,000, but they had to stop. They had to stop taking money and stop selling. Can you imagine? I mean, even I was skeptical that will people actually buy, but day one needing to stop sell, absolutely incredible. You really have to tip your hat to the US. Probably showed the world how to monetize citizenship of a country. And
Valuation. Yeah, valuation.
exactly, like giving a valuation to the citizenship of your country, absolutely incredible. I'm irrespective of what your political leaning on this is, $5 billion getting added to a country's coffers. Like I don't know, like what is a simpler thing which has been done by the government to actually increase the amount of money. But either way, Jagatji, any thoughts on this before we get into the topic of today's discussion, which is the India's defense export? So before that, any thoughts on the golden visa?
No, so Nikhil, like last time I told, it is the most developed country in the world, clean environment, rule-based country, and good quality of life, education, healthcare. So this was going to happen, and it's very interesting, and let's see where it goes.
Absolutely. So let's start with the apps with this topic. The first thing I want to talk to you about is the last 10 years of the defense export. I mean, can you just explain what really has happened? How has India changed this particular journey? What is happening to the defense industry? Some of the reports I'm reading, I'm not able to even put those numbers in perspective. So can you just tell us about the scale of the turnaround?
So, before I come to that, Nikhil, you know, India, since ages and as our cultural heritage and religious beliefs, we say Lakshmi, Saraswati, or Durga. Okay, our three goddesses. So, Lakshmi is finance, Saraswati is education, and Durga is defense. So this is in our it is part of our religion, part of our culture, right? And when we were called Sone ki Chidiya, it was purely because of these three, right? Now, in 2014-15, India's total export of defense related products was about 240 million US dollar. That is like 1,500 crores, right? And it was being exported to five countries. That's it. That to our neighbors: Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Vietnam, and Mauritius. But what is the total market size of defense business in the world today? 2.5 trillion dollar. That is like 2,500 billion. That's the total defense market size in the world. And now let's take in 2023-24, India's total defense export was 2.63 billion US dollar, which is like fifth fifth highest export of India.
So what were we in 2014-15?
We were 240 million, now 2.63 billion, right? So it is like 30x kind of. The but let me come back to something else. So I was saying 2.5 trillion dollar is world defense market.
Right.
Okay. And 23-24, India's total import from everywhere in the world was 675 billion. Okay, and
Oh,
out of that total import of every product, out of that 180 billion dollar was oil, because we are a oil dependent country in terms of import, and 16 billion, your uh, 16 billion, sorry, 74 billion was 74 billion was our defense import.
so after oil, our largest import is defense.
Yes,
Okay.
correct, right. Now let's take another figure.
Okay.
So 2023-24 total export of India of merchandise was 437 billion dollar. 16 billion dollar was pharma, which is Saraswati. 11 billion dollar is jewelry, which is also Saraswati because it is the art. 10 billion dollar is rice, which is agriculture. 4.2 billion dollar is auto parts, and fifth largest 2.63 billion dollar is defense
Wow.
related.
Okay.
And it was 30th or 31st in 2014-15, right?
Wow. Okay.
So, so this is the growth which has taken place. And earlier, hardly very few things we were exporting, but now, and let me also take you through some years. Okay, so 2014-15, I said 240 million. 2017-18, 570 million dollar.
It
20
directly almost doubled at that time itself.
and 22-23, 16,900 crores, which is 2 billion, 2.06 billion. And I already told 23-24 is 21,000 billion, 2.63. And
21,000 crores. Yeah.
correct, 21,000 crore, which is 32% more than the last compared year,
Right.
right? And now in 14-15, we were exporting to 5 countries. Now we are exporting to 85 countries.
Wow. Wow.
85 countries. And now the target for 2025 is $5 billion. Let's see where we reach, right? And total target of export of India, total target is $800 billion,
Right.
right? I think this year we have already crossed, but $5 billion is targeted for defense export,
Defense.
and,
Right.
and to 100 countries,
Okay.
to 100 countries. So I think the kind of thing which we did with vaccine,
Hmm. Hmm.
because
Hmm.
vaccine was something which is Saraswati,
Hmm.
okay, that we developed it so fast and we gave to 100 countries. And that is the same thing I think we can replicate in defense. We have reached 85 countries. I think very soon we can touch 100 countries. This is the background to defense export from India.
So, I mean, how would you like characterize the scale? This is incredible speed. You're growing faster than some tech companies and tech industries would grow. Like, what has changed, and has the global defense industry even understood or recognized that something like this has happened?
Not really, but I think the companies who are involved in this business have understood. And as we go along the discussion, I'll elaborate on that. But what has happened, I think, is primarily policy reform. So when we say policy reform is, for example, your the kind of domestic defense production. So when you are, it is very simple. I think we never got it. When you are importing so much, see, earlier we used to call import substitution. So domestic defense production and easing of export regulations, because see, defense related products had a lot of export regulations, not easy even if somebody wants to make it. So now those are the two things. And third was the diversification of market. Now we are all over the world, all 5 continents except North America. And North America also, for example, to Canada we are exporting bulletproof jackets, right? So that is also part of defense. And so 85 countries. And third is product range. From around 5 products in 2014-15, today about 120 defense related products, equipments we are exporting, which includes things like, petrol vessels, your avionics, radars, ammunition, indigenous platforms like Pinaka multi-barrel rocket launcher, which is very high end, interceptor boats, air missiles. So it is a very wide range now. It is not just some ammunition and some parts of it.
So let's understand this question, right? uh, why now and what really changed, like what fundamentally changed in the last 10 years compared to the previous years? Because this is not, typically you'll expect that 10-12% growth. We are in the top 30s, 40s, 40 percentage points. That's huge growth. That's like almost exponential growth. So why now? What really changed and what was different from the past 10 years? And what like what do you say about this?
See, as I said, it is the policy reforms, it is the diversification of market and product range. But three things, I'll say three things. Number one is defense offset policy. So, defense offset policy is that above 2000 crore, any contract, it is mandated, which is 24 million US dollar, it is mandated that 30% of the contract value has to be sourced from India, right? So that is a big policy change. Naturally, 30% of whatever imports is coming will start getting produced in India. That's the domestic production. And the second is the foreign direct investment in defense, with 74% equity and in the automatic route. So the foreign direct investment is also a big game changer. Earlier, it was not allowed. And now we are moving from defense offset to make in India. So rather than just offsets, we are saying defense contracts now emphasize on make in India. So a lot of uh, you know 30% is the minimum, but then make in India would make sense for the foreign companies also, because I recall one incident where I have a student of our school, our international business school, who is an entrepreneur with a factory in Pune, and he said he was supplying under the offset defense offset. He was supplying some components to Rafael and fighter jet aircraft, and when it was all done, and they said, "Hey, uh, we want to buy the same components from you for Brazil," because they had a contract from Brazil. So now you see what is happening is it's not related to 30%. It is the domestic production capacity has gone up, and now the export of those components also grows, right? So now the eligibility, the eligible offset activities, because what are the offset activities? Number one, of course, direct purchase from Indian companies and foreign direct investment in Indian defense manufacturing and transfer of technology to Indian companies, as well as joint ventures, development of indigenous military systems, software, and research facility. This is a game changer. Investment in software and research centers, because see, these are the seeds for the long term technology development. If you see today US, the you go to any every county will have a huge massive library, a physical one, and children are encouraged to go there and read, and there are research centers also there. So that is also covered, which is a good thing. And now let me tell you the impact. You asked why now. Let me tell you the impact. As of now, whatever contracts have been signed, 82% has been the compliance. So under defense offset, so 82% have complied to the 30%.
Wow.
And 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 there are $43 million of fines which have been put on foreign companies where there has been non-compliance. And non-compliance is also based on the fact that there are certain things which Indian companies are not able to do. So these foreign companies are not able to find Indian counterpart, right? But then they have ended up paying the fine. So now you see the impact. And the foundation is self-reliance in defense production, which is Atmanirbhar Bharat. I'll give you some quick examples. Rafale fighter jet deal I was talking to you about, which was in 2016, 7.8 billion euro,
Hmm.
right? And 70 Indian companies, 70 Indian companies got benefited from
Wow.
that 30%. Imagine how much capacity building has happened, as well as DRDO, the Defense Research and Development Organization. It also
Right.
executed some of the offsets. Same way, Boeing's contracts for military aircraft, Lockheed Martin C-130J Super Hercules, the Airbus Tata collaboration for C-295 aircraft, and on and on and on. So it is not something which is like a policy on paper. It is actually into action, and actually we are able to see the results and impact. And I don't have the figures, but I can try to find out. I'm sure it will be there, that what how much employment generation would have happened out of this.
Absolutely. I'm 100% sure a lot of employment generation would have happened. Let's move to the sort of next. Uh, so, in your mind, the real policy game changer was the defense offset policy. That's what triggered a lot of this. Am I understanding
And
that
foreign direct
correctly?
and foreign
And
direct
FDI.
investment in defense, and also connecting offsets to make in India.
Right. So a combination of these three things is what has actually triggered, a good growth in this space. So let's move on to the next part, and this is something which I think a lot about. Uh, I personally feel privatizing businesses and private businesses in long run in private industries tend to grow faster. I mean, could you elaborate a little bit more about India's private sector in the defense space compared to the public sector? How is that dynamic playing out? And anything interesting or surprising here which you've noticed?
So that's very interesting. So, India, I always say, entrepreneur is the center of Indian economy. Unlike some economies where state is the center of economy, entrepreneur is the center of Indian economy. If Indian economy has to be a 5 trillion economy, if we have to be a developed country by 2047, it is the entrepreneurs who will take us there. Of course, government policy, government direction will be there. You will be surprised, Nikhil. Today, private sector contribution to defense production and exports is 60%. 60% is private sector. And it was hardly 2% in 2014-15, right? And public sector contribution is 40% now. However, there is a difference. So, a lot of strategic, a lot of strategic aspects are with the public sector, because like government to government contracts abroad, right? So that goes to the public sector, but then the public sector is also outsourcing it to the private sector. Many of the things, including components. So strategic aspect is still with public sector, and the operational aspect is with the private sector. So this is the kind of demarcation which has happened. But defense production, your uh, in every aspect, including export, the private sector contribution is increasing. Now, let us look at who are the players, right? So if you see the public sector, then Hindustan Aeronautics, right? That is the Chetak helicopters, which they are now exporting. Bharat Electronics, which is doing defense electronics and including radars, communication systems, and electronic warfare equipment. Bharat Dynamics Limited, missile systems. This is a very interesting. That is the Akash surface to surface air missile. And in 2022, Armenia signed the deal to buy the Akash weapon system. So why Armenia? We will discuss. I'm going to come to that. It's very interesting. Why would Armenia buy from India, right? So it's a very interesting geopolitical aspect to it. Then Mazagaon dock is Goa shipyard has been exporting fast interceptor boats to Mauritius and Sri Lanka. Your Mishra Dhatu Nigam Limited, advanced metallurgical products, exported and has exported specialized alloys and materials for defense applications. So it is not just the end product. This is also a lot of raw material also. Ordnance factory I was talking to you about has done your bulletproof jackets, exporting those. Advanced weapons and equipment, Yantra India. So these are there are many public sector. Now let's look at private sector, and that is really a big game changer. As I said, entrepreneur is the center of Indian economy. Larsen and Toubro, naval platforms and naval weapon system. Tata Advanced Systems Limited, aerospace, land-based defense systems, radar systems, missile systems, drones and sonar. Bharat Forge, artillery and metallurgy. Mahindra Defense Systems, armored vehicles. Adani Defense and Aerospace is aerospace and UAVs, the unmanned aerial vehicles, which are now becoming a big game changer in times of war. We are seeing that in many countries. Kalyani Group, artillery systems, armored vehicles, and defense electronics. Alpha Design Technologies, again private sector, which is into avionics, defense electronics, and space satellite systems. These are very high-end, high-tech, very precision technologies. BrahMos Aerospace joint venture, where we supplied the BrahMos to Philippines in 2022, and Solar Industries, which is into explosives and ammunition. So it's on and on. 150 companies and counting, and a lot of them. Another very interesting thing I missed when you asked what has changed. What has changed is startups also, the startup policy of government of India. So startups, a lot of startups have started coming in this space.
In defense startup, what has the
Yes.
government done for startups in defense?
No, so they are encouraged. We have 11 companies who are now making rockets, and they are startups and funded by government and many other private sector companies. So now imagine over a period of next 5-10 years how this is going to play. 70, if I'm not wrong, there are 70 total companies in defense related products which are startups. So it's not just these big companies which I named, right? So this is a huge transformation, and again I don't know how much job creation happened, right? Yeah.
So I mean, so that I hope that paints a picture of what has happened. Let's move on to something. As a marketer, I think a lot about is the actual customers. So what is the nature of these customers? Who are these new customers which are coming in and buying from India? Can you educate us a little bit more about that? What all are they looking at? What all countries do we have? I mean, what's going on here? Who are these guys?
So now comes the geopolitical landscape into the picture. Okay, so we were already exporting to our neighbors. I said Sri Lanka, Nepal, Maldives. Now the focus of our buyers is now Africa, African continent, yeah, Indo-Pacific, and Middle East. Okay, let's look at African continent. 40% of defense purchase by Africa used to happen from Russia and Israel, and both of them are busy with wars, right? So this is very interesting, and this is where, sorry, including China and China, US, and Europe also. But what are now, what space have we taken there in African continent? 54 countries, 54 countries in Africa, like almost like uh, 1.3 billion people. Kenya, we are exporting security equipment, bulletproof jackets. In Egypt, there's again a very good success story. We are now final stages of BrahMos missile systems and radar technology. Botswana, military trucks and armored vehicles. Namibia, surveillance and electronic warfare systems. Mozambique, patrol boats and coastal defense systems. Mauritius and Seychelles is offshore patrol vessels and security system for maritime security. So maritime and naval is big deal for India, because Africa is a lot of countries is on the coast. So this is the Africa. Now look at Middle East. So Saudi Arabia. Now Saudi Arabia versus Iran is a play, right? So that is something where Saudi Arabia has been very friendly to India overall, and we can take benefit of that. We are taking an UAE versus regional threats. There are regional threats. You will recall there was a bombing which had happened in UAE a few years
Yeah.
back. It really
Yeah.
scared, and they also want a lot of defense systems airborne. And Israel versus multiple adversaries. So this Russia-Ukraine war and Israel-Gaza war has actually created opportunity for India, because they are busy with that, and a lot of their production is going into that area. UAE, we have been giving now ammunition, drones, a lot of drones, artillery systems. Saudi Arabia, small arms and surveillance systems. In Oman, radars and a coastal surveillance system. Qatar, marine security vessels and defense electronics. Now, another play is China, geopolitical. So if you see Indo-Pacific, and that is the reason Philippines went to the International Court of Justice and so many other international forums because of some islands dispute. And that is how the BrahMos, our missile was there. We were exporting, and then Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Maldives, a lot of countries where China is a challenge. And now I was, earlier I was talking to you about Armenia. So Russia used to supply a lot of defense things, equipment to Armenia. Now we are supplying Pinaka multi-barrel rocket launchers, Swati weapon locating radars, anti-tank missiles and artillery system. So Indo-Pacific, part of Europe, Africa, Middle East, these are the new countries which have got added, and it is because of the geopolitical situation. And this, I'm sure, this will keep increasing, because as it gets established that our equipment and our defense related products are world class. Understand, we have proven in pharma about the world class quality of India. Pharma is I think, to me personally, is the benchmark of quality in the world. It is about medicine, which a human takes, which is an intake. So there is most sensitivity of quality to that. Now we are today world leaders in that, and not only the vaccine, COVID vaccine, which we came out with, but even other earlier to that. India's highest export, if you remove petroleum, is pharma, right? So quality now, as it gets established that Indian defense products and equipment is good quality, right, the market is only going to increase, right? And same thing happened with IT. How we are a large IT exporting country now. It is again about quality. It is the IT as a backbone which runs the entire economies. Even American economy, the banking system, insurance system, their stock market, healthcare, education, whatever you talk about, is run by IT. So there also we have proved that same thing can now replicate in defense sector.
So sort of, if you think about it as a business, marketing और brand building हो गया है, नए नए प्रोडक्ट लाने हैं बस.
Correct, exactly, and particularly high end, high tech.
Right. So I think that gives a good picture of who the new customers are and what opportunities have got created. Let's move on to the next question, Jagatji, which is, if you look at a lot of these Indian companies which are actually exporting, I know some of them may be your students as well. uh, what have you observed, or what have you noticed, and what has been surprising for you as they have gone on exporting and seen the success?
No, so what is surprising is that initially it is they themselves who did not have that confidence, because the moment defense sector comes in, there is straight away in the mind it feels like it is for big boys, okay, it's for big companies, and so a lot of my students were very hesitant, but they started small, so they started supplying to these primes, like Lockheed Martin and Boeing and BAE Systems and Tata, L&T, Mahindra, HAL, so, and then as they got the confidence from, as a feedback from them, they then scaled up very very fast, right? So one challenge which I feel is the strategic use of dual use civilian technology to fast track
Okay.
military grade products. See, now
Can you give an example?
okay,
Yeah.
so take example of civil to military adaptation, civil to military adaptation. Now I have companies who were making auto parts for Tatas for the car, but the kind of machinery, equipment, the facilities, the manpower, engineering skill required, you can make components for anything. So now that automotive factory migrated to defense related products. Same with telecom. A lot of telecom products, because nowadays it's a lot of radar based, a lot of airborne, a lot of you know there's a very interesting technology I will speak about, which is directed energy weapons. So that is the telecom, and then the space, also space sector related companies who are like we are launching satellites. We are launching so many satellites now. It is said that India is one of the cheapest satellite launch in the world, and a lot of countries, even American satellites, are launched from India, right? ISRO and all, we have seen, they have made us so proud. So a lot of companies who are supplying to them, because it's about rockets, right? And that's so they have migrated. So this is like a dual use civilian technology going to military grade products now, right? And also IT, same thing with IT. So nowadays every defense related equipment is connected to IT, because you need a real time communication and real time data. And then very interesting is agility of the private companies, agility, because see, basically Indian entrepreneur is very agile and very fast learning, and so that speed, which becomes a little bit of a challenge with the legacy bureaucracy, in the PSUs, because there is a hierarchy of decision making. Of course, they have been the foundation of private sector. The private sector has come up because of the PSUs. But another very interesting thing I saw in my students is that in companies is that they always used to think that these countries are buying from superpowers. And why they are buying from superpowers? Why would they
Ah,
buy from us?
right.
So exports to nations that traditionally bought from superpowers and have now started buying from India is a very, very interesting change, right? And one thing also I have observed. In fact, one of my student in Aurangabad was talking to me. He said there is a company who said that the best thing I think about India to buy defense related equipment is India is a non-threat country. So non-threat status is an advantage. Non-threat status.
Right.
They don't see India as a threat, because if they see India as a threat, why will they buy Indian equipment?
Yeah, yeah. This is something which, you like him, you hate him. Our prime minister has always said that our policy is peace. Our side is peace
Correct.
always.
Correct. Of course, absolutely. In fact, if you
Uh,
reverse this in terms of India's import, we are also importing from countries which we see as non-threat countries.
right.
We are importing defense equipment from Russia. They have been our friends
Yeah.
forever, time
Yeah.
tested.
We're buying from France. We're buying from
We are buying
US.
from
Yeah.
France. We are buying from US, Germany, Israel.
Yeah.
These are non-threat countries. So same psychology we have to
Right.
translate into our export.
Absolutely. And I'm sure this is something where it would be a concern for any country, especially in one of these areas which you mentioned, which are sensitive areas. If they see you as non threat, I mean, that just opens up the door, because if not, their alternatives would be limited. And yeah, this actually, the, you never realize that something that simple can actually have such a big impact.
Correct, because it's psychological and it's geopolitical, and it is India has always been. We have always said, Vasudev Kutumbakam,
Yeah,
and it has always been a peaceful country. We have never ever attacked any country, never
right.
in centuries.
Absolutely. I So I mean, guys, any other theories on this? Please let us know in the comments. Let's move on to the next part, which is something where a lot of people who have joined us, watching us live, are thinking about, which is the future ambitions as a government or as private companies or as an exporter who's not as a manufacturer who's not making anything defense related. How do you, what do you think are the targets, and how do you assess, what all can be actually hit, and what are the sort of risks which anyone who's looking to get into defense export should think about?
So, Nikhil, from our position of 2.63 billion to 5 billion, which we are targeting, and then 10 billion, and then onwards, it is very much achievable. But I'll be honest, there are some hurdles, and those hurdles will have to be addressed. First of all, there needs to be a very fast export approvals, and it can be automated. We are an IT country. We have automated Aadhaar card. We have automated passport. We have automated income tax. We have automated GST. I mean, export approvals we can automate. It is our backbone, IT, and reduced bureaucracy. So, and then stronger private sector participation. It's already strong 60%, but even more stronger, because both will work in partnership, and more focus on indigenous high-tech defense system. Indigenous high-tech defense system. We are still not actually there on high-tech defense systems like fighter jets, warships, missiles. We are taking very long time to build warships. It has to be done faster, and private sector can do it. Strategic partner, very interesting thing. Strategic partnerships with key buyers in ASEAN, in the Middle East and Africa. Strategic partnership. That strategic partnership should not just be in relation to market but also raw material. Why? Because most of the high end defense products, they still rely, we in India, we rely on foreign subsystems, we rely on foreign engines, foreign electronics, and key raw material like semiconductors. We are still dependent. We need to build that ecosystem of supply in semiconductors, which if we don't do, it will delay our defense electronics production. And defense electronics is part of every defense system nowadays. And then global raw material disruption, like we saw in pandemic how it happened, and the supply chain getting disturbed, like for example the rare earth metals, the composites. If we are, so this strategic partnership with Africa to be able to get a supply chain of raw material is like a give and take. So you strategically you tie up with them to get raw material, but then you also end up supplying, you know
Right, right.
to them. So, and to de-risk, to de-risk our defense export ambitions, India, we need to accelerate engine development. We are
Oh,
good at amazing engineers. Engineering skill is not a challenge, but we need to accelerate the engine development for fighter jets and missiles. For example, the DRDO's Kaveri engines, right?
hmm.
And second, expand semiconductor and defense electronics manufacturing. Defense electronics manufacturing, we should have a separate policy to reduce reliance on developed countries, and secure long-term material sourcing deals, as I said, from Africa and other countries, even Latin America, wherever it is available. So these are the certain things which will, you know, solve the hurdles, because the goals are achievable, but there are some challenges which we will have to strategize and solve strategically. And government has a big role to play in that. These are all uh, areas of government, intervention, and government has been doing a wonderful work with it. Even the kind of balance which is being created with all this uncertainty of the US tariffs and all is a very well being managed so far. And I'm sure in this area also things will happen.
Absolutely. So basically, the main risks which you said and the way to circumvent them, you've given examples. Excuse me. So anyway, let's move on to the next question. Now, this is something, as someone who observes the export sector overall and specifically talking about defense. Uh, I don't know. Is there something which a lot of people are not paying attention to, which is going to come off as a surprise when it actually happens? Have you noticed any trend like that or something like that? Any company, any product, or any industry where you think that this is going to be surprise the world?
See, currently India's defense export is focused on, say, for example, missiles, drones, naval systems, and but very less discussed, but very high potential area is what I earlier told, DEW, directed energy weapons,
Okay,
which includes high power lasers, microwave weapons, and electromagnetic rail guns.
okay,
Now, these are directed energy weapons because these are where, if you see how the Iron Dome is intercepting a lot of missiles coming from, into Israel, and 200 of them coming, you know. So that is the directed energy weapons, and not only in terms of protection. So that is one area I think the next big surprise of India should come if we really pay attention to that, put some R&D funding from government, private sector, venture funding, startups, all of that, because the young youth energy of India is going to be a game changer. I mean, they are really not afraid. They are not afraid of anything. They are not afraid to take risk. They are not
yeah,
afraid to take risk. I think earlier my generation was afraid to take risk. But because the funding was not there.
right.
The funding was not there. It had to come from my family or from a business family, and they would be very concerned. But now funding flow is there. A lot of ecosystem has been built.
So direct energy weapons, guys, that can be an area of surprise. Please look out for it. Now, let's talk about, typically speaking, what you always focus on with exports, which is how can MSMEs get into the global defense market? The big players will, of course, figure it out. They will invest and they do all of that. But what is the opportunity for MSMEs there? How can they, realistically gain an entry and sort of increase their business?
So, Nikhil, I always tell my students, all manufacturers, and that, don't start by selling to governments, overseas governments, or military. Okay. Start by selling to the supply chain. So, become a tier 2, tier 3 supplier. So, whom will you supply as tier 2, tier 3? And over a period of time, you will graduate. You will graduate to larger businesses. So, like for example, global defense primes, they are called, like Lockheed Martin, be a supplier to them. A lot of my students are already doing. Boeing, BAE Systems, Rafael, Dassault. Then there are Indian private players, but large, like Tata, Larsen Tubro, Mahindra Defense, Adani, Aerospace, Kalyani Group. Be a vendor to them. That's the starting point. And then existing defense public sector undertakings, DPSUs, like BEL, right? HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics, and DRDO backed firms. And work very closely with DRDO. If you have facility, manufacturing facility, manpower, infrastructure, experience, background, look out for a lot of programs which comes out of DRDO and many other defense related institutions in India, and partner. I have seen less partnership taking place from MSMEs in these defense area through uh, these institutions. So to look out for these opportunities and participate in it, that is what, and over a period of time they will start doing a lot of other things, and they will no more remain MSMEs. They will become large companies. That's how, see, I always tell everyone, a lot of time people tell me, oh, you are talking of Tata and Adani, but everybody who is big today was small one day. Jeff Bezos is second richest man in the world. He still, even now, he is writing in his social media that this is the 20 by 20 room where I used to work alone to do coding to sell books in Amazon. Alone, alone, not even one person. 20 by 20 room, second richest man in the world. So if he
You're
would have,
saying opportunity is there, fear should not stop you from going after that
correct,
opportunity.
correct, correct, exactly.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the next question, which is this is maybe, I would say, what would be your message for countries which are thinking of working with Indian companies, which is, how should international defense companies or countries view India today? uh, what aspects of India, the capability, trajectory, etc., you think they may be underestimating? What would you say that, this is somewhere where India is going to surprise you?
No, so let me tell you what I think. Okay, most of these companies and countries, I think, no more look to India just as a market, which earlier they used to do, just as a market, no more. Now they look to India as a strategic partner as well as an emerging competitor. But strategic partner how? See, we are going to spend $100 billion on defense modernization. Now that is an opportunity for foreign companies. Not every, and here I missed something. Actually, sorry, when you asked me about MSMEs, not only export, MSMEs have a huge opportunity to participate in the import substitution aspect of the $100 billion of defense modernization in India through the Indian government. So the $100 billion spending is an opportunity for foreign companies. But pure arms sales, see, this is interesting. Pure arms sales to India is declining. Okay, so then what's happening? Partnering with Indian companies to reduce cost, speed up production, and then to be able to export to third world countries from India is something which foreign companies are looking at, and countries, right? India is not and will never be a direct competitor to, for example, Russia or US or Europe in high end fighter jets. It's a long way, or submarines, right? But it is disrupting the traditional suppliers in many markets. It is disrupting the traditional suppliers, not in these areas, but in many other areas. So, companies competing in the mid range defense products like drones, missiles, artillery, light combat aircraft is something which many countries will have to look out for India in terms of a emerging competitor, because we are getting good at that, right? And therefore partnership will be the in thing. How it happens, see, it's very interesting, Nikhil. Germany used to be a leader in dyes and chemicals, and then when they saw the same reasons, that reduced cost of production, faster speed of production, good talent in India, they started doing partnerships in India. And today India is a large exporter of those type of products, right? And one very interesting element I must share, Nikhil, is India's rapid movement from just simply an assembly line like in automotive industry, to a full scale systems development. Because the interesting element of systems development is the hardware and software combo, so that we are very good at, right? And another big development for India is India's breakthrough in end-to-end missile systems. See, not just the missiles, the system, the end-to-end missile system, and indigenous fighter jet and drone ecosystem. The drone ecosystem in India is scaling up very fast. There are a lot of startups in that area. And naval systems and submarines, this is the next leap. This is going to take time, but submarines, that's the space where things are going to go. So what I mean to say from all this is, most of the countries are looking to India as a hybrid opportunity. Of course, it's a market. 100 billion we are going to spend. So a lot of that will come through imports. So a major buyer, an attractive partner, and an emerging rival. But you can negate that through strategic partnership and adapt to India's Make in India policy. Very simple. Adapt to the Make in India policy. In any case, 30% defense offset is there, under which they have various options to how to make in India. And selling without local partnerships is going to be increasingly difficult. Selling to India without local partnerships is increasingly going to be difficult from policy perspective also, and market dynamics also, and therefore and monitors India's rise in key sectors. So if those countries who are into missiles, drones, and artillery, they have to look out for India's competition now. We are there. We are in, we are in the with the cutting edge technology there, and we are very good at price points there. So it's a hybrid opportunity for them, market as well as strategic partnership.
So I mean, there you go. If anyone out there, I'm sure Jagat sir's LinkedIn is quite large. From international companies looking at India, this is how you should think about navigating and taking advantage of the overall opportunity and export potential. Let's move on to the next question, and this is, in my eyes, before we take the, actually we can take the comments now, and then we'll ask the last question at the end. So we got few comments. First one was, by the way, guys, if you want, or if you're watching on LinkedIn or on YouTube, just leave a comment and we'll bring it up here and Jagat sir will look at it. So first one is from Bhojraj. Great insights on defense exports. Thank you, Bhojraj. Uh, that's exactly the kind of value we are trying to provide. The next question is from Mahir Panchal. Mahir asks, how can a new additive manufacturing company tap into this? We are manufacturing casting patterns, casings, and pre-operative planning models. So I'm assuming that these guys have 3D printers and that kind of technology, and they make casting patterns and all of that.
Yeah, so exactly, Mahir. Like, I think he asked this question before I delved into it. So what I was saying, that be a tier two, tier three supplier, be a tier two, tier three supplier to start with, to global defense primes, to Indian private players, to the existing defense PSUs. Start from there, because there is a huge opportunity in additive manufacturing space there. So that is the space to start, and you will then understand in terms of quality requirements, speed, and precision, and then you go to, for example, country
The
like
big
Armenia,
guys.
East Europe, Africa, Latin
Yeah,
America, Southeast Asia, Philippines,
yeah,
everywhere.
absolutely. So let's move on to the next question. Bhojraj says, Make in India initiative and defense offset initiatives are going to strengthen manufacturing and enhance national security. Absolutely. And he also adds, Bhojraj, thank you for the support, and you're quite active. So direct energy weapons is a transformative approach to modern warfare. So this is interesting. When you look at modern warfare, many people say, right, it will no longer be fought with soldiers. It's because of technologies like this. So let's move on to the next question. Puneet Garg. Puneet Garg asks, please share on investments and government support and connections, how to start. Puneetji, I think you should look at Jagat sir's Global Network Initiatives training sessions. Maybe take one of his sessions. And I think Jagat sir will be happy to connect you to the right people. Uh, Next question is from Manisha Wali. Manisha says, is there any platform or body to facilitate component manufacturers to connect with defense departments? Jagatji, what's your answer for this?
Yeah, so there are a lot. So the as I said, DRDO is also funding a lot of such forms. There are a lot of startups, and the Ministry of Defense also has. Uh,
Is there some platform where she can access this data, Jagatji?
uh, yeah, there is a platform. I know Manisha is my student. I will send her. I don't
Okay.
recall right now, but there are platforms where it can be. And more important is, component manufacturers, as I said, and I repeat, be a tier two, tier three suppliers. You There is a huge market with Lockheed Martin, Boeing, BAE Systems, Rafael, Tata, Larsen Tubro, Mahindra Defense, Kalyani Group, Adani. These are BEL, HAL. You don't need, you have to just go to them and say, look, this is my facility. You need to convince them what is your strength. You have your facility, you have manufacturing infrastructure, you have machinery equipment, you have manpower, you have engineering skills, you have experience, and you can you can start working with them.
Absolutely. So Manisha ji, once we get the response from Jagat, we'll reply to your comment on YouTube. You can have a look at it. For anyone else in the audience, they can also look at it in the YouTube comments or description. Let's move on to the next question. Bharat Chauhan. Bharat ji says, nice session. Looking forward to similar booster sessions. Absolutely, Bharat ji. This is going to be a consistent effort. We are always looking to address interesting topics around exports. Ishan Jain has a question. Defense supply chain is very secretive and difficult to penetrate. I know of companies that source advanced raw material through a chain of network. How to penetrate this existing supply chain? Very interesting question, Jagaji, because I have a similar perception of the defense space. So what's your answer for this?
So I will suggest, there are a lot of exhibitions and conferences which happen,
Okay.
and people, you will find the people there. So you can attend those. That is something which will create. You see, it is about network. It is about your network. I always say your network is your net worth. So whatever network you build, because you go to these forums, you listen to people who are influencers, who are authorities, who have authoritative knowledge in this subject, and once you explain what you do, you will create your network, right? That is something.
Ishan, I would also like to say that I think I'm not sure if you have tried to get into this market, but I feel it's just a fear or a perception. Because as Jagatji said, someone who's an auto part manufacturer, for example, if he has the capability, I'm sure defense people will be ready to buy. In the end of the day, it's machines. It's or it's, I mean, whatever you want to call it. It's simple things. So I think you've made it a lot. I think you're in it's this is probably in your head that it's very secretive and difficult to penetrate. I think the market is a lot more open, and the as long as there's demand, I mean, there's always an opportunity to get into the supply chain. So let's move on to the
Yes.
next question. Yeah.
So Nikhil, one of my student was listening to this session, so he sent me a very interesting link. Uh,
Huh?
Sorry, one of my team members. So there is it is for Manisha, reply to Manisha and others also. The website is makeinIndiaDefense.gov.in. If you go to makeinIndiaDefense.gov.in, there is a separate Make in India website for defense. And right now there are 145 live projects where 171 companies are participating, and they are in three stages. And in fact, government is funding 70% of the prototype development cost. You know, and
So for
and
Mahir, yeah.
yeah, right. So but the condition is that 50% of that should be, indigenously developed. And there is another make to category which is industry funded, where again it should be import substitution, and 50% of the funding of the prototype is coming from government of India. And the third is category is called make 3, where manufactured in India through other foreign companies under defense offset. There also, uh, no design and development, but manufacturing in the country with the 60% of that happening. So if you go through makeinindiadefense.gov.in, you will see a lot of real time opportunities to connect to defense projects of government of India.
So Ishan, uh, Manisha, and Mahir, I think this is a great opportunity for you guys. Please look at this.
Let
Uh,
me post it. Let me post it on the chat. So yeah, that's the
yeah.
website.
So there you go. The website is on the chat. Let's move on to the next question. Bharat asks how MSME can directly connect with government sector defense companies. Bharat, Jagat sir just answered
That's
this
the,
question.
that's the
Check out
website.
the check out the link which he just posted below. Uh, Next is Surjit Shiva asks, will there be any opportunity for merchant exporters in defense area? I think he's referring to as a trader. Is there an opportunity?
Yeah,
Jagatji,
yeah.
what's your answer for that?
Certainly, certainly, because this is trading, but not really in the high tech area, in components maybe, because there are a lot
Right.
of some of my students in Mumbai are actually doing it, and
Hmm.
they are procuring because see what Ishan wrote makes sense to Surjit's answer. He said it is very secretive and difficult to penetrate. So some of my students they participate in all these international conferences of defense, and they create a network, and then they position themselves that I will be able to supply these components to you. And why
And
would
they
a
end up
foreign company, why would a foreign company not buy from a manufacturer? Because there is always a role which is played by a
a merchant or a trader.
terms of
Yeah,
quality inspection and sourcing from the right place, because that's a big challenge for foreign companies in India. And that is the
absolutely.
reason we saw that $43 million was paid as fines because of defense offset targets not being met, because they were not able to find those type of companies. So
Yeah.
that will happen.
So Surjit, I hope this answers your question. And the URL for anyone who can't see the comment section, makeinindiadefense.gov.in. This is the website where you can go check out these projects and these companies. So those are all the questions, guys. Thank you so much for participating. So Jagat ji, before I let you go, I know it's been over an hour, but the last question is, this in my opinion, going from 200, 150, 200 million to 2 billion and targets of 5, $6 billion in a relatively short span of time, what is that secret sauce which you think the government should look at replicating in other sort of export sectors? I mean, defense from 31st to 5th. That's just crazy jump. So, what do you think what would be your message for that?
See, Nikhil, two things: frugal innovation, we call jugaad, and strategic diplomacy. Vaccine is a very good example of that. Frugal
Right.
innovation and strategic diplomacy. We gave to 100 countries and a good vaccine. Okay, it's not just any vaccine, good vaccine. Same thing can be replicated in agriculture, frugal innovation, strategic diplomacy. Africa needs India's frugal innovation in agriculture sector badly, right? Textile, technical textiles, healthcare, India's healthcare, uh, IT and systems and startups and the models which India has built is different. Education, so it can be scaled. Two things: frugal innovation and strategy. So when you say frugal innovation, that is building high performance. Frugal innovation is leading to high performance. Look at the vaccines which we made for the country, for India, which 150, 1.5 billion people, and cost effective systems. So that is frugal innovation. And strategic diplomacy, aligning exports with geopolitical needs. So we saw that being a non-threat country is a very very strong, and that is where strategic diplomacy comes in, right? And then offset deals and localized manufacturing, creating long-term buyers, right? And the big takeaway is India's defense export model can be a blueprint for every sector, as I gave you some examples. Right now, very interesting, because you are saying that how this can be replicated to other sectors. See, what is strategically changing in India big time is India is moving from an offline economy, cash economy, informal economy, and a low productivity economy, which we were known for, to an online economy, cashless economy, formal economy, and high productivity economy. Now, this has an impact across every sector. This is the fundamental foundation which has been built, and it's taken 10 years. It doesn't happen suddenly. We are doing more digital transactions than US and China put together, right? And India's model is more of a technology led model that is very interesting, collaborative, equitable, and it democratizes the opportunity at population scale. This is what Africa needs. This is what Latin America needs. This is what our neighboring countries needs. Democratizing opportunity at population scale. And I think India has got that understanding now that wealth, there was a school of economics which said wealth will trickle down. India is saying in the new model, wealth will not trickle down, and therefore India is raising the floor, right?
Right.
So I think these are it's a very different growth model which India is working on, and it is very sustainable. And let me close, Nikhil, by saying this, and I'm so proud to say this, and I say this every time: entrepreneur is the center of Indian economy. So it is the entrepreneurs who are going to take us to a $5 trillion economy and a Viksit Bharat, a developed economy by 2047. Entrepreneur is the center of Indian economy. State will have to support the entrepreneur to take risk, to flourish, to fund, to take risk in areas and then get back. Vaccine was funded by government of India, but then when it became commercial, it took a backseat, and we are exporting. We exported. Same thing in every area. So entrepreneur to be the center is the center of Indian economy, and that will be a game changer.
So there you have it, guys. That is the show for you. We will be back soon. We have Jagat sir is actually flying to an interesting partner for India. Jagat sir, is this something you can publicly talk about?
Yeah, no problem. So we are,
So
like
yeah,
in our Global Network Institute, we take our students who are all entrepreneurs to different countries. So now
right.
this year we are taking 100 of our students to Russia.
So
So
there you go.
yeah, so in June we are taking 25 companies, then every 2 months 25 companies, and objective is export, import, joint venture, technology transfer, and investment. So I am
Sure.
leaving day after tomorrow to do some preparation
So
for
the
that.
next episode is the moment he's back. We're gonna ask him about what happened in Russia.
Yes, yes. And President Putin, their foreign minister has already said President Putin is planning a visit to India soon.
There you
So
go.
it will
So
be
some
interesting.
interesting, yeah. So we'll be looking forward to that. So there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I see a lot of you actually stayed for the whole 1 hour. For those who missed some parts, you can access this link. It's a live YouTube link. You can come on the Export Fundas channel and check it out, or see it on Jagat sir's LinkedIn profile. Thank you so much for watching. See you all in our next episode. Bye, Jagatji. Bye, sir. Bye,
Thanks a lot.
everyone.
Thanks. Bye.